All right, if you have your Bibles this morning, as the kids are filing out to go to Kids Club, if we'll go to John chapter 1. John chapter 1, and as you're turning there, I want you to think about this to start with. I want you to think about something that you like. It can be anything, something that you really like. It can be a type of food. It can be a movie you've seen recently, a book that you've read. It can be a restaurant that you like to go to, a vacation spot. Doesn't matter. Just think of something that you like. Now think about this. Have you ever tried to tell someone else about something that you liked and you did a really terrible job? It happens to me all the time. I get really worked up, and I get really, really excited. Just this past week, I was talking to my sister about a book I had read recently, and I was like, it's so, so good. She's like, okay, tell me about it. And I was trying, and it just wasn't landing, and she could tell I loved it, and I really wanted her to love it, but it wasn't connecting. And so I don't know if you've ever experienced that in life, trying to get someone excited about something you're excited about. I promise that movie was really, really good. I promise this restaurant has the best fill in the blank or whatever. And you can tell they're being polite and they're just kind of, and you're like, it's not connecting. But I want you to see and experience what I've seen and experienced. And so you know what I've discovered works best? Show them. So eventually with my sister, and instead of just saying, hey, just take my word for it, and hopefully my memory will, think of more specific things, I said, get this book or borrow mine, and then let's talk about it. Do we see the difference? Instead of just telling someone about that great movie that you've seen, watch it with them, and then talk about it with them. And instead of just telling them about that restaurant that you love to go to, take them to that restaurant, let them taste and see for themselves so you can experience it together. Do you see the difference this morning? The same thing is true when it comes to our faith. Look, there is nothing wrong with being articulate. There's nothing wrong with studying and working hard to try to explain and describe what it is that we believe as Christians or what the Bible teaches and why we believe it. But there's something so much more powerful, something so much more beautiful, something so much more glorious and meaningful that we can do. We can take them to Jesus and help them experience Him for themselves. And that's what we're going to see in our passage this morning in John chapter 1 and the New Hope stories that we'll share here in just a moment. Not just people telling someone else about Jesus, but taking them to see Jesus for themselves. So let's look. John chapter 1, we'll pick up in verse 35. And you can follow along as I read out loud for us today through verse 51. It says, the next day, John the Baptist was standing with two of his disciples. And he looked at Jesus as he walked by, and he said, behold, the Lamb of God. And then two of the disciples of John heard him say this, and they followed Jesus. And then Jesus turned, and he saw them following him, and he said to them, what are you seeking? And they said to him, Rabbi, which means teacher, where are you staying? And he said to them, come, and you will see. So they came, and they saw where he was staying, and they stayed with him the rest of that day, for it was about the 10th hour. And one of the two who heard John speak and followed Jesus was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. And he first went and found his own brother Simon and said to him, we have found the Messiah, which means Christ. And he brought him to Jesus. And Jesus looked at him, Peter, and said, you are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas, which means Peter. Verse 43, the next day then, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. And he found Philip, and he said to him, follow me. Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. And Philip went and found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote. It's Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Nathanael then said to him, but can anything good come out of Nazareth? And Philip said to him, come and see. So Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said to him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit. Nathanael said to him, how do you know me? Jesus answered him, before Philip even called you, when you were still under the fig tree, I saw you. And Nathanael answered him, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. And Jesus answered him, because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these. And he said to him, truly, truly, I say to you, you will see heaven opened, and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. So we'll stop right there. There's a lot that we could say about this passage. It is full, and I've already narrowed it down actually for our time this morning, but I want to point out a few simple but life-changing movements that happen in this passage. Here's the first one. Did you notice what John the Baptist, as we call him, do you notice what he did in verses 35 and 36? Look again. If you didn't know, John was a prophet, and he was a preacher, and he was a whole lot of bit of a wild card. People didn't quite know what to do with him. Scripture tells us he was living out in the wilderness, in the desert. He wore animal skins. He ate bugs. And even more importantly, he was known for his really fiery preaching. And he would come straight at you, and he would call you to repent and return to the Lord. And so a figure like this is going to catch attention. And he's going to make some waves and eventually attract a following, which he did. And it eventually got to the point that John got the attention of the religious leaders of that day and age. And so they sent messengers to him to figure out who he was. This is a passage right before ours. And these messengers came to John and they said, "Who are you? Are you the Old Testament prophet Elijah, come back from the dead? Or maybe you're Moses, also come back from the dead. Or maybe you're claiming to be the Messiah that we've all been waiting for." But John made it repeatedly clear. He said, if you're looking at me, then you're looking in the wrong place. I'm not who you're looking for, but he's coming. And when he gets here, you'll know it. See, John knew, and John then made it clear that he was just the forerunner. This was his ministry. He was just the herald. He was just the voice calling out in the wilderness, like the prophet Isaiah had said so many years before, that the Lord is on the move. The King of the universe is on his way, so prepare ye the way of the Lord. And then who showed up next? Jesus. So all that to say, what do we have in verses 35 and 36? One, we have a powerful recognition on John's part to see Jesus for who he is. But secondly, most importantly, we have a powerful call. In the terms of our theme for today, and you can take this down if you're taking notes, don't underestimate the power of, look, there he is. Look, there he is. See, that's the job of any preacher, isn't it? Ultimately, or any pastor, anyone in ministry. John had figured it out. As hard as we work in ministry, and we do, and we should, to preach and to teach and to serve and to minister, but at the end of the day, our job is simply to point to him and then get out of the way. Our job is to point to Jesus, help people see Jesus, and then not get in their way so that they can know Jesus. So that's what John did. It says he showed up at the spot where he had seen Jesus before, and when Jesus came by again, he made it clear to his followers that that's who you need to be following. Not me. I was getting you ready for him. It's him. It's him. That leads to the second movement of this passage and my second point. I hope you're still taking notes. This one's very similar but different. Don't underestimate the power of come and see. Don't underestimate the power of come and see. Look again at verses 37 through 39. These two disciples of John literally left John that day to start following Jesus. And it says when Jesus noticed, he turned around and saw them following him, he asked them what they're after. And when they say they want to know where he's staying, what does he say to them? Okay, come and see, right? Now, we may not pick up on this at first read through the passage, but if we slow down and think about it, what is Jesus doing? He's not just asking or talking kind of surface level. He's asking a loaded question when he asks what they're looking for, right? What exactly are you after? Like, big picture, deep down in your heart, what are you longing for? What is it that you're really seeking? And when they ask where he's staying, they're not just asking about his current address. Do we recognize that? They want to know more about him. Where are you going to be? Because we want to know more about you. We want to know, we want to see what it means to follow you, to be your disciples. And to that he says, good, come and see. Come and find out. Come and meet with me and talk with me and see what I'm like and see what I might have for you. But then it gets even better, doesn't it? Because what happens? They find out the best way possible that being with Jesus is contagious. And you can't keep it to yourself. You have to go out and you have to tell other people about it. So first, it says in verse 41, Andrew takes off. Where does he go? He finds his brother, Simon. And he says, we've found the Messiah. You need to come and see. And he brings him to Jesus to see for himself. And then what happens? Jesus, it says, takes one look at him and speaks a word over him that changes everything for him. See, Jesus doesn't just see Simon for who he is. He sees who he could be and who he will be. So Jesus changes his name on the spot. which marks a change in his identity, and Peter's life will never be the same again. But then it doesn't stop there. It says the next day in verse 45, Philip goes and he finds a friend named Nathanael. And he lays it out there as simply and as clearly as possible. Here's my rough paraphrase. He says, guess what, man? We found him. We found the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for, the one that the scriptures have told us was coming. Well, he's here. And it's this guy, Jesus from Nazareth. But how does Nathanael respond? I mean, everything at this point has been building up. It's been like ratcheting up, and we're really, really excited. And then Nathanael pumps the brakes, and he says, no. Why? What's his problem? Can anything good come from Nazareth? There's no way that you found this guy from there. Like, I'm open to the Messiah. I'm open to God working, but if he works, I don't think he's going to be working from that location. And there's a lot of, kind of behind-the-scenes work that goes there. Later in John's gospel, it tells us Nathanael was from Cana, which is about 10 miles away from Nazareth. 2 small towns. Any of y'all ever been from a small town? You ever had a rivalry with a nearby small town? Neither of you are impressive, but you want to be better than the other one? There's a little bit of that going on here, but I think even beyond that, I think Nathanael just can't wrap his mind around that there's no way. I wish, but there's no way. This is where it gets good. What does Philip do in response? No, let me prove it to you. Let me explain everything. Let me reread the scriptures for you to better interpret. And what does he do? Just come and see. I don't know, but I've met him. I'm different. Come and see. Just come and see for yourself. And so, what happens? Nathanael does. He comes and he meets Jesus, and he finds out firsthand that he's far better than he ever could have expected, and he offers far more than he ever could have imagined. So not only does Jesus know things about him that are impossible to know, there's something about the way that Jesus looks at him and knows him for who he truly is, and everything changes. Nathanael's skepticism, his caution surrenders. It melts away in the presence of Jesus, and he discovers this life-giving faith. And you and I, we can spend some time, maybe go to coffee, and we can talk more about what Jesus says here. It's loaded, again, the things that he's saying at the end of this passage. But for this morning, I want us to focus on what got Nathanael to this point. What was it? Not a good explanation, not a powerful sermon, not a miracle, none of the good stuff that we look for, that we want to be involved in, that really do matter. What got him to Jesus was what? A simple invitation from a friend. Come and see. Come and see. Again, I'm not saying that reason and explanation and deep thinking and good sermons and all that don't matter, or that they don't have a place in our lives or in our evangelism. They do, but I don't want us to overlook, I don't want us to ever forget how powerful a simple and direct call to just come know him, come experience him, come check him out, what God can do with something like that. See, I think a lot of people unnecessarily hold themselves back and talk themselves out of sharing the faith with their friends or with their families or with their coworkers because they say, I'm not smart enough. Look, I just don't know enough. What if they ask me a question that I don't know the answer to? Can I let you in on a secret? People ask me questions all the time that I don't know the answer to. And I convince myself, oh my goodness, it's my job. I'm supposed to know the answers. And if I say I don't know, then the whole thing's going to fall apart and the church is going to get... No. Do you know what I tell them? Oh, I don't know, but let's find out together. Because who changes lives? Who touches hearts? Who saves souls? Not me, not you, not our worship. Again, all that matters, all that's important, but at the core, where's the power? Who is it? It's Jesus. Can you come and see Jesus? That's what the people need. That's what we get to offer. We see this in this passage first with John, seeing Jesus for who he is. It says, it's not me, it's him. Follow him. It's the Lamb of God. God is changing things right here, right now, through that man. And these men, these disciples who weren't qualified, who weren't impressive, found Jesus, could not be the same, and then couldn't stop telling people about him. And that's what made the difference. See, meeting Jesus is an experience, and it's a good one. But telling others about it is a testimony. And that's what we are called to do. Not just come and know, but then go and tell. And I think that's the perfect introduction for our New Hope storytellers this morning. So turn your attentions to the screen and listen to these stories.
me and Ella have been like best friends since 5th grade, so it'd be probably about like 4 or 5 years. Like I had talked to her about church and stuff, and she had some reasons she just didn't really feel like going and stuff, and so I kept trying to push it a little, but I never really felt like I was getting anywhere. So a couple years go by, because 5th grade she moved to or 6th grade when COVID happened. She moved to Frisco, so we never really saw each other anymore, but we're still texting all the time. And then it was my blue school year, so this last summer for Super Summer, it was I went through the week and we were learning about the Great Commission. Sharing the gospel, how it's important to try to get those other people into heaven. And as soon as that week was done, I was fired up about sharing the gospel. I was fired up about trying to spread the word. And all of a sudden, she texts me. She's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" So we start talking, and she tells me that she is starting to get into the word, starting to get into Jesus. And I was shocked because it was so out of nowhere for me. And it's like, I feel like sometimes you can tell, like, that's God. Because I had just come off this week of learning about how, like, I was getting taught how to get people deeper into that word, get people closer to God. And then this opportunity comes up, like, you can't plan that better. Like, you can't tell me that's not God. So I kind of walked through those steps with her, and then after that, she started coming to church with me, and it was perfect. Like, you couldn't have done that better, and that's probably one of the biggest moments in my life that I can see, like, wow, that was God. So the years passed. The topic had been brought up some, but it was never. I never really felt too comfortable diving headfirst in, but when she told me, she's like, "This is what I want to do. This is what I'm starting to do." We planned a devotional. We talked about it a lot, and so I feel like I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like I kind of helped her dive deeper into the Word, kind of get closer to God and stuff like that. And she was crazy for Jesus. It was awesome to see.
I woke up one morning and I was like, I have to get right with God, or like, I just have to get right with Him. And so then I remember I was like, I know who's really good with God is John. And I always believed in God, but I wasn't so, like, I guess, like, hungry for His, like, love and stuff until, like, just that one morning I decided to wake up and think that. And so I texted John, and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" Like, I was small talk. And then he was like, "Oh, how are you?" And I was like, "I've been good. I've been trying to find a relationship with Christ recently." And he got super excited. He was typing in, like, all caps. He was so excited. And he was like, "Download the Bible app. Let's start a devotional. Like, I'm so ready to help you on this walk." And so I was like, this is great. And so, I was texting Madison about it because it was exciting to me. And I was like, "Oh yeah, like, I'm starting to read the Bible. I'm starting to do this devotional." And I mean, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for her, but she was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And so I was like, so then it was like one day I was just like, "Oh, John, I should come to your church with you." And he was like, "Oh yeah." It was right after Super Camp, I think. And so I was excited, and I came to church, and I think, like, I don't know, right as we started worshiping, I felt that connection with God. Like, I was around these people, I had no clue. I only knew John, and I was like, this is, I don't know. I didn't, what?
That's where you belong.
Yeah, it's like where I belong. Like, following God was good. And then Pastor Aaron came up and he was talking, and I was like, wow, this is, like, really powerful. I can't remember what he was preaching about, but I was like, wow. And yeah, so then I think like a few weeks go by, and the Saturday before church, I went to bed and I was praying to God, and I was like, please help me live how God did, and like, like I want to have a full relationship with you. And so then that night I went to bed and I had a dream where basically I died, but I came back to life. And I was telling everyone, I was like, God just did this. And everyone was telling me, that's not the story, Ella, that's not the story. And I remember waking up and I was like really, really scared. And I texted Madison and I was like, I just died in a dream. Like, I don't know what's happening. This could be a sign from God that I need to be saved. And so, sorry. And so, yeah. And so then I go up to life groups that day and I go to John, and I was like, I just had this wackadoodle dream about how I just died. And I came up again. Everyone was seeing me. And he was like, oh, like, has Eli ever talked to you about being saved? And I was like, no. So then I think after church that day, I talked to Eli about it, and I told him about what happened, the dream, and then we sat down in here, and he gave me some Bible verses, and we talked about being saved, and I decided right then and there that it was the right time to get saved. So we went into the nursery room, me, John, Emerson, and Leah, and I got saved. And then after that, I was talking to Madison, and I was like, I just got saved by Christ. That was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, this is so amazing. You should come to church with me because, like, I want to show you what God's love is. And, yeah.
Before she asked me to go to church, I remember when she sent me that message about her and having that crazy dream. And at first I was just like, that's really crazy. I was just like, but I get it, but I don't. But I get it because I was never really like a true believer, and I don't want to say I was either like lukewarm, like I knew Jesus died for us on the cross, but I didn't really know much about him. And so whenever she started telling me stuff about it, I was like, actually, like, this is really cool. And sometimes I'll just like go on my Chromebook and just like look up some things. I was like, actually, I really like this. And then she told me she got saved, and I got really happy. Like, I was excited for her. I was like, oh my gosh, like I wish I was there. Like, hello, like. And then she invited me to church, and at first I was kind of scared, and I was just like, oh gosh, like, I'm not going to know anyone other than her and John, and I was just like, but she was like, no, it's like really fun, and I was just like, okay, I'll go. And so I went, and I almost got her late, because I did not know where to park, and I did not know where to go. But I came in, I was walking up the stairs, and I was just like, oh, this is not that bad, like, it's a nice place, and like, everyone's like super nice, and everyone was like saying hey, and I was just like, this is really good. And so I kept going to church, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I keep wanting to come here because, like, I love the people here because they're so nice and sweet. And I remember it was like in September where I was just like, I'm really thinking about like getting saved. And I remember, I think we were back over here talking about it, but I was just like, I want to wait because like I want to ask my family about it. But I was just like, either way, like, I know I want to do this because I kept seeing videos about it, and I kept talking to Ella about having relationships, and I was like, I want to be like devoted into this. So I waited a few weeks, and then I remember it was like on a Wednesday night, I was just like, I want to get saved, like that's what I want to do. And so I think we were upstairs, and I was with Ella, and I was just like, I'm gonna get saved. And I remember like reading the Bible passages that you gave me, and I was just like, wow, this like really spoke into my heart. And I was just like, I want to get saved. And then I remember after getting saved, I was just like, I'm so excited to get baptized. And I was just like, I was so happy. And I think about that moment a lot because even though like it feels like I haven't brought people into this church, I like tell them about it all the time. Like, I know it feels like a lot of my friends like struggle, so I tell them, oh, like, I think you should get the Bible app, or I think you should go to church, or like I give them like, I take a screenshot out of my Bible or take a photo like of my Bible that I have, and I send it to them. I'm like, I want you to read this because like I think that's something you should like get into, because it feels like a lot of my friends are not Christian, and it just like hurts me to know that they're not like saved. So I try to like help them, and I think it's great that like I have a bunch of friends over here that like get to help me, and I'm like happy that Ella and John have got me here to this church.
So I was sitting at lunch one day, and one of my best friends came over to me and was like, "What are you reading?" Because I was reading my Bible. And she asked me, she's like, "What are you reading?" And I told her I'm actually going through the Romans Road that that our youth went over on Wednesday night. And she was like, "Oh, that's cool. What is that?" So I got to sit and explain to her what each thing meant, because I wrote down what Eli said as we were writing it down or doing it. And then the next day she came to me, she was like, "Well, how do I follow through with that in salvation?" So I went through it one more time with her, and then I was like, then I read Romans 3:28, I believe. And then I read her my favorite verse. And so then after that, we prayed together. I had like a lot of feelings of like nervousness, because it was like my first like time being able to share and talk to somebody about that. And I knew like he would give me the words, God would give me the words to say, but it was the fact that I kept thinking, I don't want to tell her wrong and lead her wrong, because I feel like if I would have said something wrong, then it would confuse her more, because she was confused at first. And I was like, I don't want to say anything wrong. So that's why I just resulted back into just like reading what it said in the Bible, and then at the end we prayed together. I would say like if you get the chance, like if you have that opportunity, don't waste it.
Let me close with this today. A final thing, if you're taking notes. To lead others to Jesus, you first need to know him yourself. It's really hard to introduce people to someone that you've never met, right? We can introduce people to church life. We can introduce people to Christianity. We can introduce people to kind of cultural things, and that has its place. But ultimately, that's not what we're after. We want people to know and follow Jesus, because he's the King of the universe, and he's the one who makes us alive forevermore. So we can't lead others to him if we have not met him ourselves. So what do you think the call on your life is today? If you don't know Jesus, you have not met him yourself, I want to ask, what are you looking for? Isn't that the question that Jesus asked those first disciples that followed him? What are you seeking? And not just short-term, surface level, what are you thinking about, what do you want, but deep at the core of who you are, what are you longing for? What are you chasing after in this life? What is it that you think is going to give you purpose and meaning and direction? What is it that you think is going to make you whole? Jesus says, here's the invitation, come and find it. It's me. Come and see what I can do, how I can bless, how I can lead, how I can empower, how I can save your soul and make you new. For the rest of us, are we like John? Do we point to who Jesus is? Because that's the call in our life. If we have met him, then the call is not to just stay right there next to him, but because we know him as we're walking with him, what do we go do? We go and we tell the story. So that's my hope and prayer for all of us today.